The Apache woman only asked for one night of shelter. She never thought she'd become his wife. The sun was slowly going down, turning the wide-open land into shades of orange and soft red. The wind moved gently across the dry grass, carrying dust and the smell of earth. A lone Apache woman walked carefully along a narrow path, her steps slow and heavy with tiredness. She had been traveling for many days, moving from place to place, carrying only what she could manage, bars. Her clothes were dusty, her face showed signs of long journeys, and her eyes reflected both strength and deep exhaustion. She had not planned to be out so late. But the road had been longer than expected, and small problems along the way had slowed her down. Her water was running low, and her feet ached with every step. As night came closer, the land began to feel colder and more lonely. She knew that traveling in the dark could be dangerous. Wild animals, sudden weather changes, and the simple risk of getting lost were all real threats. She stopped for a moment and looked around. There were no villages nearby, no campfires, and no signs of people. Just wide land and a growing darkness. For the first time that day, fear quietly entered her heart. Not loud fear, but the kind that sits deep inside and makes a person think carefully about every next step. She wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders and kept walking, hoping to find something, anything that could offer safety for the night. Her thoughts went back to her people, to the places she once called home, and to the many changes that had pushed her onto this road. Breath. She was strong, but even strong people needed rest. After walking for what felt like forever, she noticed something in the distance. At first, she thought it was just another shadow, but as she moved closer, she saw the shape of a small ranch house. A wooden fence stood around a piece of land, and a small barn sat nearby. A thin trail of smoke rose from a chimney, showing that someone was inside. Her heart beat a little faster. Finding a house at this time of day could mean safety, but it could also mean risk. She had learned from life that not everyone welcomed strangers, and not everyone showed kindness. Perhaps. Still, the cold was coming and her body could not go much farther. She stood at the edge of the property for a long moment, gathering her courage. She did not want to cause trouble. She did not want to stay longer than needed. All she wanted was one night, a roof, a little warmth, and a safe place to rest. Slowly, she walked toward the house. Her steps were careful, not wanting to surprise anyone. When she reached the front door, she raised her hand and knocked gently. The sound felt loud in the quiet evening. Inside the house, a man was finishing his simple supper. Protect. He lived alone and was used to the quiet life. The knock made him pause. Visitors were rare out here. He stood up, feeling cautious but curious. He opened the door just a little at first. When he saw her standing there, tired and dusty, he was surprised. She looked strong but worn down by travel. Her eyes showed both pride and a quiet request for help. In a calm, respectful voice, she asked if she could have one night of shelter. She explained that she was traveling and had no safe place to stay before nightfall. She did not ask for food or money, just a place to rest. The man studied her for a moment. Life on the open land had taught him to be careful. He did not easily trust strangers, but he also saw how tired she was. He saw that she was not asking for much. Just one night. Bess. After a short silence, he opened the door wider and stepped aside, allowing her to enter. He told her she could stay for the night and rest in a small guest room. His voice was firm but kind. Relief washed over her face. She thanked him quietly and stepped inside. The house was simple but clean. The air was warm, and the smell of wood and cooked food made her realize how hungry she truly was. The man showed her to a small room with a bed, a chair, and a small table. It was not fancy, but to her, it felt like a blessing. She placed her small bag on the floor and sat on the edge of the bed, letting her tired body finally rest. The man brought her a cup of water and a small plate of food. She accepted it with deep gratitude. They did not talk much at first. Both were careful, both unsure what to say. The silence was not uncomfortable, just quiet and thoughtful. As she ate, she looked around the room. The walls were plain, and the furniture was worn from years of use. It was clear that the man worked hard for everything he had. This was not a place of wealth, but it was a place of honest living. The man returned to his own space, giving her privacy. He did not ask many questions, and she did not offer many details. Both respected each other's space and stories. That simple respect made her feel safer. As the night grew darker and the wind picked up outside, she lay down on the bed. The sound of the wind against the walls reminded her of how close she had been to spending the night out in the open. She closed her eyes and took slow, deep breaths. Her mind went back over the long road behind her. The losses, the changes, the choices that had brought her here. She had not planned to stop at this ranch. She had not planned to meet this man. Yet here she was, safe for the night. In another room, the man sat quietly, thinking about the unexpected visitor. He wondered where she came from and where she was going. He felt a strange mix of concern and curiosity. Something about her quiet strength stayed in his mind. Neither of them knew it, but that single knock on the door had already begun to change both of their lives. What was meant to be just one night of shelter was the first small step of a much larger story. For now, though, there were no big plans. No promises. Just a tired traveler, a quiet rancher, and a simple act of kindness under a wide, dark sky. That night, as the land rested and the stars filled the sky, two strangers slept under the same roof, unaware that this ordinary moment would one day become the beginning of an extraordinary journey. Morning light slowly filled the small ranch house. Soft sunlight came through the window of the guest room, touching the woman's face and waking her gently. For a moment, she did not remember where she was. Then the quiet room, the simple bed and the smell of wood in the air reminded her. She was safe, under a roof, in a stranger's home. She sat up slowly, careful not to make noise. Her body still felt sore from the long journey, but she felt more rested than she had in many days. She took a deep breath and offered a quiet moment of thanks in her heart for the kindness she had been shown. She fixed her hair and straightened her clothes as best as she could. She did not want to look careless or ungrateful. When she stepped out of the room, she could hear light movement from the kitchen area. The man was already awake, starting his day. He was standing near the stove, making a simple breakfast. When he saw her, he gave a small nod of greeting. His manner was calm and respectful, not too friendly, not cold either. Just steady. He offered her a plate of food and a cup of warm drink. She accepted with a thankful smile and sat at the small table. They ate mostly in silence at first. The quiet felt natural, like two people who did not need to fill every moment with words. After a while, the man spoke gently, asking if she had rested well. She told him she had, and that she was grateful for the shelter. Her voice was soft but steady, showing both respect and strength. She told him that she planned to continue her journey that day, if the weather and her strength allowed it. The man nodded, understanding. Life on the land had taught him that travelers often came and went. Still, he noticed how tired she still looked. Even after rest, the road had clearly been hard on her. He did not say it out loud, but a part of him wondered if one more day of rest might help her. After breakfast, she stood up and offered to help with any chores to repay his kindness. At first, he refused politely, saying she was a guest and did not have to work.
But she insisted in a respectful way. Helping was part of who she was.
She did not like to feel like she was only taking. Finally, he agreed and showed her a few simple tasks. Breath. She helped clean dishes, swept a small area of the house, and later offered to help outside. The work was not heavy, but it gave her a sense of purpose and dignity.
Outside, the air was fresh and cool. The land stretched far in every direction.
She helped with small things, like carrying light tools and helping organize supplies. The man worked nearby, fixing a fence and checking on his animals. As they worked, they spoke a little more. Simple words. Simple stories. He told her about the ranch, how long he had lived there, and how he managed things on his own. She shared small parts of her journey without going into deep details. There were moments when their different backgrounds showed. Small misunderstandings happened, but they were handled with patience. When one did not understand, the other explained calmly. There was no anger, only learning. The man began to notice her quiet strength. She did not complain, even when the work tired her. She did not ask for special treatment. She worked with care and respect for his space and his ways. She, in return, noticed his honesty. He did not pretend to be something he was not. He worked hard, spoke simply, and treated her fairly. That meant a great deal to her. In a world where trust was not always easy, these small signs of character mattered. As the day went on, clouds slowly began to gather in the sky. The wind picked up and the air felt heavier. The man looked up and studied the sky. He had learned to read the weather from years on the land. It looked like a storm might come later. He mentioned this to her. Heavy rain could make travel difficult and even dangerous. The roads could turn muddy and visibility could be poor. She looked toward the open land, thinking about the long road ahead. She had planned to leave, but she also understood the risks. Traveling in a storm could slow her down and put her in danger. The man did not tell her what to do. He simply said that if the storm came, she was welcome to stay another night. His words were simple, without pressure. The choice would be hers. She thanked him, but said she would think about it. In her heart, she did not want to stay longer than needed. She did not want to be a burden. Still, her body and the sky both seemed to be telling her to be careful. By late afternoon, the clouds were darker. The wind grew stronger, and the first drops of rain began to fall. But they were light at first, but steady. She stood near the doorway, watching the sky. The road ahead looked long and uncertain. The thought of walking through heavy rain, tired and alone, made her chest feel tight. The man came to stand a short distance away, not too close, giving her space. He repeated that she was welcome to stay. He did not rush her. He did not make her feel weak for needing rest. After a long moment, she nodded slowly. She said she would stay one more night if that was truly okay with him. He nodded back, simply saying it was fine. A quiet sense of relief settled over her. Not just because of the storm, but because she felt safe here. Not trapped, not controlled, just safe. That evening they shared another simple meal. This time the silence felt more comfortable. They were no longer complete strangers. Still careful, still respectful, but slowly becoming familiar with each other's presence. They spoke a little about the land, about the changes in weather, about simple hopes for better days. Nothing deep, nothing heavy. Bay. Just human connection in small, steady steps. As the rain fell harder outside, the house felt warmer. The sound of rain on the roof filled the space, creating a peaceful rhythm. The woman sat quietly, listening, feeling a rare sense of calm. In her heart, she knew this was not where she had planned to be. But life did not always follow plans. Bah. Sometimes it placed people in unexpected places for reasons that were not clear at first. The man, sitting in his chair, felt something new as well. He was used to being alone. The quiet presence of another person in his home felt strange, but not unpleasant. It reminded him that life did not have to be faced alone. That second night, as the storm continued outside, two people who had met by chance shared the same roof again. What started as a single night of shelter was quietly becoming something more than just a favor. Neither of them spoke of the future. Neither made promises. But in the quiet space between words, something was growing. Trust, comfort, and a connection that neither had expected. And as the rain washed over the land, it felt as if it was also washing away some of the distance between two very different lives, slowly bringing them closer together, one quiet moment at a time. The storm passed during the night, leaving the land fresh and quiet in the early morning. The air felt clean, and the sky held soft gray clouds that slowly began to break apart. Sunlight touched the wet ground, making small drops of water shine like tiny mirrors. The woman woke up to the sound of birds and the gentle movement of the house. For a moment, she lay still, listening. The rain was gone. The heavy wind was gone. Brace. Only calm remained. She sat up and felt stronger than the day before. Rest and warmth had helped her body recover a little. Still, her journey had taken much from her, and she knew she could not rush herself too hard. When she stepped into the main room, the man was already awake, quietly working on a small repair near the table. He looked up and greeted her with a small, respectful smile. Bay. It was not a big change, but it felt warmer than before.
They shared breakfast again.
This time their conversation flowed a little more easily. They spoke about the storm, about how the land looked different after rain, and about how the animals behaved when the weather changed. Bay. Small talk slowly turned into slightly deeper words. Not deep secrets, but small pieces of their pasts. The man spoke about how he had built this life with his own hands, how the land had taught him patience and hard work. He spoke about long days and lonely nights, and how quiet had become his normal. The woman listened carefully. She did not interrupt. She respected his story, understanding that it was not easy for him to open up, even a little. When it was her turn, she shared small memories of her people, of traveling with family in earlier times, and of how life had changed in ways she had not expected. Pain. She did not go into painful details, but her words carried a quiet sadness mixed with strength.
He did not push her to say more. He simply listened, letting her speak at her own pace.
Bess. That simple act of listening made her feel seen and respected. Later in the day, they worked together again. The ground was soft from the rain, and the air was cool. They fixed small things around the ranch, checked supplies, and made plans for simple tasks. Working side by side created a different kind of connection. They did not need many words. They understood each other through actions. When one reached for a tool, the other already knew what was needed. But when one grew tired, The other slowed down. These small moments built trust in a quiet, natural way. At one point, they sat down to rest under a small shaded area. The woman looked out across the land. The wide space no longer felt empty. It felt open, full of quiet possibilities. She found herself thinking about staying longer, not just because she needed rest, but because she felt something here that she had not felt in a long time. Stability.
The thought surprised her.
Bess. G had always been moving, always adjusting. The idea of staying in one place, even for a while, felt both comforting and frightening. The man, sitting a short distance away, watched the land as well. He thought about how different his days had been since she arrived. The work felt lighter. The house felt less empty. But the quiet no longer felt heavy.
He did not want to read too much into it, but he could not ignore the change in his own heart.
That afternoon, they spoke about her journey more directly. He asked where she planned to go after leaving.
Bow.
She told him in simple terms, explaining that the road was long and uncertain. He asked, carefully and without pressure, if she had anyone waiting for her.
Barris. She shook her head. Her path was her own now. There was a long pause after that, the kind of pause where words could change everything. But neither of them rushed to fill it. Finally, the woman said that she did not know exactly when she would leave. The road was still there, but she felt that she needed to listen to her heart as well as her plans. The man nodded. He did not try to guide her decision. He only said that she was welcome to stay as long as she needed, as long as it felt right to her. Boshe. Those words carried more meaning than they first appeared. They were not just about shelter anymore. They were about choice, respect, and trust.
As evening came, they prepared another meal together.
This time, they worked side by side in the small kitchen space. There were small smiles, light moments, and a sense of ease that had not been there before. Desk. They laughed softly over a small mistake while cooking. It was a simple sound, but it felt special. It had been a long time since either of them had laughed with someone else. That night, they sat quietly after eating. The firelight made soft shadows on the walls. The room felt warm, not just from the fire, but from shared presence. The woman found herself thinking about how strange life could be. One knock on a door had brought her here. One act of kindness had opened a space for something new. The man thought about how he had grown used to being alone. He had told himself that this was enough, but now he was starting to see that sharing space, sharing time, could bring a different kind of strength. They did not speak of love. They did not speak of long-term plans. But both felt a gentle pull toward something deeper than friendship, even if they could not yet name it. Before going to bed, the woman stood by the window for a moment, looking out at the quiet land. The stars were bright again. The storm had passed, but something inside her had also shifted. She no longer felt like just a traveler passing through. She felt like someone standing at a doorway of a new chapter, unsure, but curious. In another room, the man sat quietly, thinking. He felt a mix of hope and caution. He did not want to rush anything. He did not want to assume too much. But he also did not want to ignore what his heart was starting to feel. That night, both lay in their separate rooms, awake longer than usual. Not from worry, but from thought. Pray. From the quiet understanding that something was changing. Trust had grown. Comfort had grown. And somewhere between shared work, shared meals, and shared silence, a deeper connection had begun to take root. They did not know where it would lead. They did not know what the future held. But they both knew that this was no longer just about one night of shelter. It was becoming a story of two lives slowly moving closer. One small, honest moment at a time. The days that followed moved in a quiet, steady rhythm. Morning light, simple meals, shared work, and calm evenings became part of their routine. What had once felt strange now felt natural. The woman was no longer just a guest who would leave at any moment. She had become part of the daily flow of life on the ranch. Still, deep inside her, she knew that a decision was coming. She could not stay forever without choosing what this place truly meant to her. The road was still out there, waiting. Her past life was still a part of her, but so was this new sense of belonging. The man felt the same quiet tension. He enjoyed her presence, her strength, and the way she brought life into a simple world. But he also knew that he could not hold her here if her heart belonged to the road. Respecting her freedom was important to him. One morning, after finishing their work early, they sat outside, watching the land stretch under the wide sky. The air was calm, and the animals moved slowly in the distance.
It felt like the right moment for honest words. The man took a deep breath.
Speaking did not come easily to him, especially when it involved feelings. But he knew that staying silent would only make things harder. He told her that her presence had changed his life in ways he had not expected. The house no longer felt empty. The work no longer felt as heavy. He said he did not want to rush her or control her choices, but he wanted her to know that she mattered to him. His voice was steady, but there was emotion behind his words. Not loud emotion, but the kind that came from deep honesty. The woman listened quietly. Her heart beat a little faster. She had felt the same changes. She had felt safer, calmer, more at peace here than she had in a long time. She told him that she had come here only looking for one night of shelter. She never planned to stay. But life had a way of changing plans. She admitted that part of her now felt connected to this place and to him. Still, she shared her fears. She had lived a life of movement and change. Staying meant starting over in a new way. It meant letting go of the road that had become familiar, even if it was hard.
The man did not interrupt. He listened with care.
When she finished, he told her that he did not want to take anything from her. If she chose to leave, he would respect it. But if she chose to stay, he would stand beside her and build something together. Those words stayed in the air between them. They were not a promise of an easy life. They were a promise of shared effort, shared respect, and shared responsibility. That afternoon, the woman walked alone for a short time across the land. She needed space to think. The wind touched her face, and the open sky reminded her of all the roads she had traveled. She thought about the struggles she had faced, the loneliness, the strength it took to keep moving. She thought about how tired she had been before she reached this place. She also thought about how she felt now, the steady meals, the warm shelter, the feeling of being seen and respected, the way her heart felt calmer in this quiet life. The choice was not easy. Staying meant change. Leaving meant returning to uncertainty.
As the sun moved lower, she made her way back to the ranch house.
The man was working nearby. When he saw her, he stopped what he was doing, giving her his full attention. She told him that she had made a decision. Her voice was calm but firm. She said she wanted to stay, not just for a few more days. Not just because she was tired, but because she wanted to see what kind of life they could build together. The man did not speak right away. He felt a mix of relief, gratitude, and responsibility. This was not a small choice. It was a new chapter for both of them. He told her that he was honored by her decision. He promised that he would treat her with respect, that her voice would matter, and that this would be a shared life, not one where she felt trapped. They did not celebrate in big ways. There was no loud joy or dramatic moment. Instead, there was quiet understanding. Two people standing on the edge of something new, choosing to step forward together. In the days that followed, small changes began. The woman started to take a more active role in planning daily tasks. She suggested small improvements. The man welcomed her ideas. This was no longer just his ranch. It was slowly becoming their shared space. They talked about simple future plans, not far into the future, just enough to give shape to their days. Planting, repairing, organizing. Small steps that built a sense of direction.
They also spoke about their differences. Their backgrounds were not the same.
Their ways of life had been shaped by different experiences, but instead of seeing this as a problem, they began to see it as something that could teach them both. There were moments of uncertainty, moments where old fears returned. The woman sometimes wondered if she was giving up too much. The man sometimes worried that he would not be enough. But each time, they spoke honestly, not with anger, but with care. They learned that trust was not something that appeared once and stayed forever. It was something that had to be chosen again and again. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sunset, the woman said something simple but powerful. She said that, for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was not just surviving. She was living. The man nodded. He told her that for the first time in years he felt like his life had opened up again. They both understood that challenges would come. Life on the land was not easy. Building a shared life would take effort, but they were no longer facing those challenges alone. That choice, made in quiet honesty, changed everything. What began as a request for shelter had become a decision to build a life side by side. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And in that simple, steady decision, two separate paths became. One shared rose. The decision to stay slowly turned into a new way of life. Days became weeks, and weeks began to shape a future neither of them had planned, yet both had chosen.
The ranch was no longer just a place of work and shelter. It became a place of shared purpose.
The woman settled into the rhythm of the land. She learned the small details of the ranch, how to care for the animals, how to manage supplies, and how to plan for changing seasons. The man, in return, learned from her as well. She shared different ways of doing things, new ideas, and quiet wisdom shaped by her own experiences. They grew stronger as a team. When one felt tired, the other stepped in. When one felt unsure, the other offered steady support. They learned that partnership was not about one person leading and the other following. It was about walking side by side. Over time, people from nearby areas began to notice the change. The ranch felt more alive. There was more movement, more care, and more balance. Though they lived simply, their life together showed strength and quiet happiness. The woman still carried her past in her heart. She did not forget where she came from. The man respected this. He encouraged her to keep her traditions and memories alive in her own way. Their home slowly became a place where both of their worlds could exist together.
They faced challenges, as all people do. Some days were hard.
The core. Weather damaged crops. Animals became sick. Supplies ran low at times. There were moments of worry and stress. But instead of turning away from each other, they leaned in closer. They talked through problems. They talked through problems. They planned together. They reminded each other why they had chosen this life. Bess. Trust grew deeper. Respect became stronger. The bond between them was no longer just built on kindness. It was built on shared effort, shared responsibility, and shared hope. One quiet evening after a long day of work, they sat together outside, watching the sky change colors as the sun set. The land was calm, and the air felt peaceful. The man spoke softly. He said that life had surprised him. He had once thought his path was set and unchanging, but now he saw that life could still offer new beginnings. The woman listened, her heart full. She said that she had once believed she would always be moving, always searching. But now she felt that she had found a place where she could grow, not just survive. They sat in silence for a while, letting those words settle. In the days that followed, they spoke more about the future, not in big dramatic ways, but in small, meaningful steps. They talked about building a stronger home, improving the land, and creating a life that could last. At some point, the idea of becoming husband and wife came into their conversations. It was not rushed. It was not forced.
It came naturally, as a way to honor the life they were already building together.
The woman thought deeply about it. Marriage was not just a word. It was a promise. A commitment to stand together through good and difficult times. The man felt the same weight and meaning. He did not want to make empty promises. He wanted their bond to be real, honest, and strong. When they finally spoke clearly about it, there was no doubt in their voices. They both wanted the same thing, not just to live together, but to truly share their lives. The decision to marry was simple in how it was made, but deep in what it meant. There was no large celebration, no grand event. Their union was quiet and personal, shared with a few trusted people. What mattered was not the size of the moment, but the truth of it. From that day on, they were no longer just two people who had met by chance. They were partners in every sense of the word. Life continued with its usual challenges. The land still demanded hard work. The seasons still changed. But now they faced everything together. The woman sometimes looked back and thought about that first night. How close she had been to walking past this place. How close she had been to missing this life. The man sometimes thought about the sound of that first knock on his door. How ordinary it had seemed. How extraordinary it had become. Their story was not one of sudden magic, Pet. It was one of steady growth, of two people choosing day after day to build something real. They taught each other patience. They taught each other understanding. They taught each other that love did not always arrive in loud, dramatic ways. Sometimes it arrived quietly, through kindness, respect, and shared work. Their home became a place of peace, a place where both could rest, dream, and plan. The Apache woman had only asked for one night of shelter. She had never imagined that it would lead to a life partner, a shared home, and a future built together. But life often works in unexpected ways. One small act of kindness had changed two lives. And under the same wide sky where their paths had first crossed, they continued forward, not as strangers, not as travelers passing through, but as husband and wife, walking side by side into a future they had chosen together.